Hello everyone, this is Dr. Zach. Today we are going to talk about probability. So probability is the possibility or the number of ways an event can occur divided by the number of equally likely outcomes. So we're going to write everything as a fraction, a percentage, or a decimal. So in question A, we're going to do an experiment that consists of rolling a number cube. That's a fancy way of saying die, to find the probability of each outcome. Now a number cube has the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the cube. So what is the probability of rolling a 5? 5 occurs once. So we write 1 divided by the number of outcomes that were possible, and in this case there were 6. So 1 out of 6. Now for the number of odds, think about the number of odds that there are in our list, and we're going to divide it by 6. So you look at your odd numbers, 1, 3, 5. There are 3 of those. 3 over 6 can be reduced to 1/2. Now I told you your answer can be a fraction, 1/2. Your answer can be percentages, so that would be 50%, or your answer can be decimals, so 0.50. All of your answers have to be smaller than 1 though, because the probability of an event is always less than 1. All right, think about how many numbers are less than 3 and divide that by 6. Don't forget to reduce, because we always reduce our fractions. When we look at question B, you have a box that contains only red, black, and white blocks. The probability of choosing a red block is 1/4. The probability of choosing a black block is 1/2. Determine the probability of choosing a white block. We're going to use the idea that the events are mutually exclusive. You pick a red, a black, or a white block, and your probability has to add up to the number 1. So we know that 1/4 plus 1/2 plus something equals 1, and so x must be 1/4. The probability of choosing a white block is 1/4, or again, you can write it as 25% or 0.25. All 3 representations are correct. So questions 1 through 4, go ahead and complete those on your own. And then we'll look at independent and dependent events. Now an independent event is an occurrence of one event if it does not affect the other, probability of the other. Dependent events occur and the first event will affect the probability of the other. So for example, if I flip a coin which has a heads and tail, whatever happens in the first event will happen. You'll get a head or you'll get a tail. But then I'm going to flip the coin again, and I'm either going to get a head or I'm going to get a tail. So those are 2 separate flips, because the first flip does not tell what happens in the second flip. These are independent events. Whereas question 2, you're selecting a card from a standard deck of cards, and then you get to hold it. So you have your cards, and you're taking one of them away. A friend then selects another card from the same deck. Well, there are fewer cards to choose from. So the second event is dependent on the first event. So we have independent and dependent events. Now if you look at the next page, you will see that your job is to find whether or not the events are independent or dependent, and then we'll talk about probability of an independent event. Next, we're going to find the probability of determining independent events. So if we have independent events, what we want to do is figure out the probability of each and then multiply. Suppose an experiment involves flipping your 2 coins. The sample space of the outcome is given. Determine the theoretical probability of both coins landing heads up. So the probability of flipping a coin and getting a heads is 1/2, or tails is 1/2. The probability of your second coin flipping is 1/2 for heads and 1/2 for tails. So if we have our first coin toss and get a head, and the second coin toss and get ahead, look at your probabilities. Now, the sample space tells us we take 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. So 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. If we were to use this little sample space, you can see that all the branches for all the outcomes do add up to become 1 if we were to check. For example 4, experiment consists of randomly selecting a marble from the bag and replacing it. That makes this an independent event. And then we're going to select another marble. The bag contains 3 red marbles and 12 green ones. What's the probability of selecting a red marble, for red written here, and the green one? Favorable outcome would be 3/15, marbles replaced, times, and then we have 12/15. Multiplying 3 times 12 gives us 36. 15 times 15 is 225. Reduce your fraction, gives 6/25. So the probability of pulling a red and then a green is 6/25. Now if we were to look at our next problem, the way I want you to set these up, the coin is flipped 4 times. What's the probability of getting a head? 4 heads in a row. I want you to write the words head, 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 head. Then I want the probability written underneath each one of getting a head during your coin flip. Afterwards, multiply and get that answer. For example 2, you're spinning the spinner twice. What's the probability of spinning 2 odd numbers? So I want you to write the event that you're looking for, odd and odd. The probability of an odd is 1, 2, 3 out of 6 times 3 out of 6. So that's 1/2 times 1/2, which is 1/4. On the next couple pages, I want you to work on 11 through 16, finding the probabilities. In order to get full credit, make certain you are writing this part of the problem down. I want to see the words more than I want to see the numbers. All right, guys, have a great day.